put my wife on the spot because our ministry is beginning to break open and reach out a little bit, so it's time she learns the rule of instant in season, out of season. And I want her to share a short version of her testimony.
You can do it, you can do it, man. You can do it.
She can. It's not the ability that she needs to overcome.
The shyness.
Public speaking.
No, well, not in this
She has
kind
no
of
problem
environment.
talking about it.
No, this kind of environment, public speaking's okay. If it was like more people, that would be a bit of a problem.
Was picture about her underwear?
No,
That's what they always say,
Come
yeah.
on, just date.
That's what I say.
That's like, no. I don't know where that advice came from, but it's not good advice.
I'm joking.
No, they say it on a lot of movies.
Yeah, they do. I don't think that's good advice.
No.
What kind of question?
Well, the short version.
From the beginning.
In the beginning, no.
You want to start making popcorn?
Give me a starting point. You know,
Okay.
just give me a starting point.
All right.
We start.
Born in Brooklyn,
Okay.
not New York.
I was born in Brooklyn, here in South Baltimore. When I was young, my parents divorced. My dad remarried, and we moved from the city, from Brooklyn, to Harford County. So I grew up in Joppatown, went to high school there. I'm a mariner, woo. And I'll throw church in there. My dad wasn't real big on going to church, but my stepmom, she was Catholic at the time, and she felt like it was important that we at least go through catechism, through some, went to Sunday school, we did the classes, I got confirmed Catholic, I can kneel, sit, stand,
And also with you.
with the best of them. So, but once we got confirmed and everything, she kind of made it our decision as to whether or not we continued to go to church or not. Like, she would take us, it was up to us whether we wanted to go on Sundays or not, want to go to Mass or whatever. And I went for a little while, but then when I graduated high school and I went away to college, I kind of like stopped all that. I've always believed in God. There's never been a doubt in my mind that there is a God, that He is real, that He is with me, that He is here, He created everything. I believe all of that. As far as I knew, I believed everything I learned in the catechism and in Sunday school and in church and everything that I was supposed to study, I studied, and I believed it all. So, fast forward a few years, I'm living in Delaware, and I'm working at this Pep Boys in Delaware. Unbeknownst to me, one of the mechanics was a bivocational pastor. So he was a mechanic during the week and a pastor at evenings and on the weekends. He never worked Sunday because he was in church. But so I started talking to him and asking him all of the questions that I had about God and about Jesus and things weren't adding up with what I was taught in the Catholic Church to what he was saying. And I just started kind of feeling these tugs, and I would go talk to him, and actually I even went and saw The Passion of the Christ. I saw it in the theater where there wasn't a dry eye in the theater. You could hear everybody crying. They should have gave out tissues to that movie with this. It was intense. And so about a month after that, he kept inviting me to his church. He kept inviting me, telling me they have Bible study on Wednesday nights, they had service on Sundays, and I was just kind of like, I don't know. And so finally I just felt like I should go. So I did. And the first Sunday I was there, all these people are coming up to me, and they're hugging me, and they're because they knew I was new. There was a small church, so they knew everybody that normally came, so I was obviously not one of their normal people. So they were hugging on me, and they were asking me my name, and I told them I knew Doug, I worked with Doug, so that was his name. And so that felt a little awkward. And then they get up and they do worship, which is kind of like the songs we're singing now and stuff, which was really different from Catholic church, because people are clapping and they're raising their hands, and that was not what I remember church being like. So of course I'm clapping along with them, because I'm like, okay, this is what we're supposed to do here. I wanted to fit in a little bit, so but I mean, and I listened to his message and everything, and I just kind of liked it, so I started coming. And I even started coming on Wednesday nights to the Bible study. And they were studying the book of Revelation. So like my first real church experience, and they're studying the end of the book. So a little joke between me and God. But anyway, because I'm one of those people that like I'll read a chapter into a book and then I'll flip to the end and see what the end of the story is. And then I'll go back and keep reading. So, God knew that about me. So he knew I'd be all right finding about the end of the world first.
Then fill in the blanks.
Right. Then we can go back and then we keep going. So one Wednesday night, I came to the Bible study, and they went through their part of Revelation that night, and they prayed and everything. And my right hand used to kind of tremble. And I just heard a little something inside that said, "Show Doug your hand." So I did. I said, like they were getting ready, and people were starting to get coats on, get ready to go. It was like the end of the night. I said, "Doug, why does my hand do this?" The next thing I know, they had me stand up, and everybody comes and circles around me. They're laying hands on me, and they're praying over me. And I had never experienced that before at that moment. And one of the ladies, sweet older lady, her name was Barb, and she came up to me. She said, "Is it okay if I get behind you and put my hands on your back while they're praying, as they're getting ready to pray?" And I said, "Yeah, that's fine." So she did. They all prayed. And then when things were over, I felt a little different. And she, then people started some people left, started to disband a little bit. They were done the praying. And she came up to me and she said that the Lord revealed me to her. And she saw me as a little girl running through a field in a white dress with my hair flowing and flowers in my hair. And she said that God said that he loves you and you're his daughter. And that was like all it took. I was crying, tears were streaming down my face. Pastor Doug came over to me and he starts what they call the Romans Road, the sinners, whatever you refer to as yes, leads me through the salvation prayer. And then they handed me a box of tissues, and I'm still crying. And because it was a small church, Pastor Doug's family was the worship team, and they were there. So they got up and they started singing worship songs while he's leading me through the prayer. So you know how in the Bible it says all of heaven rejoices when one soul gets saved. Well, I had that experience happen in front of me because they were praying, they were worshiping, they turned the sound system on, they were singing worship songs, and they were going to town for me. And from that moment, I've been pretty much on fire for the Lord, and I've been in church.
I can confirm that.
Wherever wherever I was living, I lived there a little bit longer, and then the Lord put me in Dundalk, so I moved down here with my dad, and for a little while. And then, I'll fast forward to you, I started going to a church. Actually, she's not here tonight, but Diane was attending the church at the same time. And the group of friends and her sister that they had at
Kind
the
of
time.
like a young adult singles.
No, they were older, but that's okay.
They were older, but that's...
They went to this coffee house that they refer to as the bridge. And so they invited me a couple times. Finally, I felt like, you know what, okay, I'll go. They just kept calling it the bridge. So they took a van. I met them at the church. We got in this van. We go to the bridge. I didn't know it was in Brooklyn because I hadn't been back to Brooklyn since my parents divorced and we sold the house and moved out to Hartford County. So as we're getting closer, I'm starting to recognize where we are because I grew up here. So I knew some of the roads, the houses looked familiar. I'm like, oh no, we're in Brooklyn. But God did that to me on purpose because if they would have said the Brooklyn Bridge, I would have said no and I wouldn't have gone. Because I wasn't going to deal with the divorce and things that happened in my childhood. I wasn't going to go back home. So I could go into the coffee house that Pastor Russ here was running at the time. And the band that was there that night was Godspeed. I had on a tie-dye shirt, and one of the guys in the band had a tie-dye shirt on. And everybody was just having a good time. The band was playing their songs, and everybody's clapping and singing and talking. And George and the tambourine, he was off beat, so I grabbed the tambourine from him. So I mean, it's my first night there, and I'm like jumping right in, and I'm playing the tambourine with everybody, and I'm just having a good old time. Like, I'm glad that I went. I'm glad that I...
In your old neighborhood.
Yeah. Back home.
Yeah.
And I found out a little later, it was actually like 3 streets over from the street that I grew up on. So,
Because like the Bible says, can anything good come from Brooklyn?
so, I mean, God really brought me full circle back to, you know, where things started for me. So.
Because that's what God does. He brings us back to the place of hurt to get it healed. Amen.
Amen.
So the rest of that's history. Here we are.
Unbeknownst to me at the time, the Lord was leading me to the place where my future husband was.
See that?
So,
For the record, I was trying to get out of that neighborhood for years.
You sure it wasn't Greek over troubled waters?
that's right.